The idea to start Scrape Records was I was getting kind of tired of working at other record stores for other people. I always kind of envisioned working for myself at some point or another. So I thought, I started getting the idea like 22, 23. So by 24 I opened Scrape and thought, why not give it a shot when I'm younger? If it's something that works out, great. If it's something that fails, at least I knew I'd give it a shot and move on from there.
Other than selling like metal CDs and like records, what other services do you provide?
Other than metal CDs, and we sell a lot of vinyl. We sell magazines, T-shirts, DVDs. Huge demand for concert tickets, lots of show tickets, collectible posters, lots of back issues too. It's cool to see a lot of people looking for a lot of the old magazines from back in the day. Fun to flip through old clippings and look at old record reviews.
Yeah. In the past, Scrape Records has hosted many bands for like meet and greets and like in-store performances, such as like Opeth and Children of Bodom.
Mm-hmm.
What was the most interesting band to walk into Scrape?
When I saw that question, this was the first thing that came to mind, so I'm going to stick to this one. It wasn't necessarily an in-store, it was just two people that arrived one day. And this is something that probably won't ever happen again thanks to technology, but at the time it was great. It was a time when Opeth were playing at the Commodore. This was early 2000s, 10, 12 years ago. And Gene Hoglan, that a lot of people may know from Death and Testament, Strapping Young Lad, Fear Factory, tons of bands, Death Clock, so forth. He was going to be playing drums for Opeth that night because their drummer was not doing too well at that time. I forget the reasoning for him not showing up. But nonetheless, he wasn't going to be playing that night, and Gene was going to step in. And this is the day of the show, early afternoon. Gene Hoglan and Michael Ackerfeld walk into the old store looking to see if I have a copy of Opeth's Damnation album because Gene needs to learn some songs today. And that's just, not only was it cool that they chose to come to the store and to get that, which we had, and it was great, but that's something that's not going to probably ever happen again due to technology, and whenever you're in a desperate need for a song, you can always go online.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's something that I will never forget that. That was very cool.
What's the most difficult part of running and owning Scrape Records?
The most difficult part of owning and operating Scrape, I would say, like any person who's into small business, the mental part of the whole business is exhausting. It's on your mind all the time. You have to be willing to have it on your plate all the time. You can't rest properly. You can't have a proper social life because it's on your mind all the time. We can carry on in a second. Yeah, I was just going to add a bit to that topic that it's not just the small business aspect that it's going to take away a lot of your time. Like even if you're not physically in the store, it's on your mind all the time, and it can be really hard to enjoy the littlest things, from watching TV to just hanging out with friends. And it can be a little overwhelming at times when it comes to, say, just the topic of music, being able to enjoy music outside of the store and finding the time for it can be a challenge to actually enjoy it. Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
Scrape is now celebrating 17 years of business.
Yep.
Is there any special events coming up to celebrate that?
We have 2 confirmed events happening for our 17th anniversary. There might be some other contests and giveaways, a couple in-store signings that may happen around our anniversary time, which is November, like our actual anniversary is November 1st. But 2 shows that are happening for sure. The main one being our 17th anniversary show at the Vogue on October 28th. It's an all-ages show. We're excited to have that, so everybody can come out, featuring Machine Head as the headliners, with main support from Children of Bodom, Epica, and Battlecross. Those tickets are on sale now through TicketWeb. You can also get them at Scrape. And the early sales so far are really strong. We might even have a sold-out show come the 28th. So, yeah, October 28th, Vogue Theatre. Be metal. Oh, and then, yeah, show number 2, which we're calling The Dessert, November 15th at the Rickshaw, featuring Sanctuary from Seattle. If you don't know Sanctuary, that features Warrell Dane. He was the lead singer from Nevermore. Also with Jim Shepard on bass, formerly of Nevermore, also in Sanctuary. First time ever playing here in 3,000 years, so hopefully you'll come out and see that as well. On sale now, Rickshaw, November 15th.
Okay. After running Scrape Records for 17 years, do you think the interest in metal is higher or lower than in past years?
The interest in metal higher or lower, I'd say it's very consistent, just like the loyalty to the genre. You know, I look back to getting the idea and thinking seriously about opening a store more kind of late 95, 96, where arguably that was probably the most dreariest of all dreary times for metal as a whole. At least more so on the commercial side. Even though there were some newer bands starting to emerge, there was nothing that was really that substantial and that much in the forefront. So again, the metal fan is arguably one of the most loyal fans, if not the loyalist fan. So the interest is always consistent, just like the business at the store is always consistent.
With all the new bands that try to label themselves as metal, how do you pick the bands that you carry?
Well, the bands that I pick that I carry, again, may surprise some people that it's not. A lot of people think, oh, you carry what you like. Of course I want to carry things that I like, but it's also important to carry what people are asking for as well, as long as it's relative and relevant. I'm not claiming that we have every band that we should. There's definitely bands that aren't here, but a lot of it is due to people asking. There's always going to be bands we can add. There's probably some bands we could omit. But I like to think that through the whole time that we've had the store, there's never been a band that somebody walks in the store and goes, why the hell do they have these guys? They're just not part of it. So yeah, there's always going to be the argument that this band is metal and this band isn't metal. But that's why the store also isn't called Metal Records. It's called Scrape, and it's partly called not Metal Records is because I don't want it to be so pigeonholed that I think it pretty much speaks for itself when you come into the store. It has a vibe. I think it's fairly clear what the vibe is. But, you know, we can have things like Pink Floyd and Rush and Zeppelin, which, in my opinion, always up for, you know, discussion, but are things that laid the foundation of metal and play a huge part in the formation of metal and as a part of the metal community. So until people come in and go, why the hell do you have this band? Then maybe there's a problem. But a lot of what I carry is based on what people like you ask and other people ask. If the interest is there, I'll stock it. Nobody's asking, I don't stock it.
Last one.
Yep.
Other than well-known metal bands, Scrape Records also carries local bands. Is there a big demand for local music?
There's a big, I'd say there's more of a larger demand for local music for the visitors that we get from out of town. We do get a lot of people coming in looking for, you know, what are some bands from these parts that I might not know about. And there's definitely bands I can recommend all the time. Sadly, I find that most of the bands locally are kind of from a very similar mold. There's not a whole lot that kind of breaks out of the death, thrash, grind kind of Vancouver staple. Maybe that's more the BC metal sound, but it would be nice to have a bit more, you know, on the traditional metal side. You know, bands like 88 Mile Trip that come to mind add more of the groove, old school vibe. So it's another band that adds a nice new variety to the scene. But to have some more melodic bands, you know, and there's this other prog band, Omnisite, that's got some good melodies to them, have some promise. So it's nice to have a bit more variety, where I find most of the bands from town are kind of very similar. Not that they're bad, it'd just be nice to have more variety. All good?